All right, today we are going to graph some linear inequalities. Okay, one nice thing about this is it's just like graphing linear equations that we've been doing for a long time. So it's really just like doing equations that are y equals mx plus b. Okay, the only difference is going to be that instead of y equals, you're going to have either a greater than, a less than, a greater than or equal to, or a less than or equal to symbol in there. Okay? Now with the symbols, that changes what type of line we have. We're either going to graph these with a solid line or with a dashed line. So if we have a greater than symbol, that's going to be a dashed line when we graph it. Same with a less than symbol. A greater than or equal to symbol, you'll graph that with a solid line, and less than or equal to, we will also graph that with a solid line. Okay? So if we look at number 1 here, we have y is greater than or equal to negative 3x plus 4. Again, the negative 3 is your m, and the 4 is your b. So 4 is our y-intercept. So I'm going to go to 0, 4, and make my point for my y-intercept. And then our slope is negative 3. So remember, a slope of negative 3 means we go down 3 and right 1. So from the y-intercept, I'm going to count down 3 and right 1. And I would be right here. Okay? So I have those 2 points. Now I can go ahead and make my line. And because it's greater than or equal to, I'm going to have a solid line. Okay, so we've got our solid line there. And it does go on forever in both directions. Now, the one difference with an inequality is we have to shade one side of the line or the other. We don't just get to make the solid line or the dashed line. We have to do some shading. So we need to figure out which side of the line to shade. So I'm going to write my inequality here. Y is greater than or equal to negative 3x plus 4. One way you can do this is just pick a point on either side of the line and see if you get a true statement or not. Now, a very easy point to pick if it's not on the line is 0, 0. So I'm going to pick 0, 0, okay, which means my x is 0 and my y is 0. So then I would have 0 equal, or 0 greater than or equal to negative 3 times 0 plus 4. Well, negative 3 times 0 is 0. So I have 0 plus 4, so I end up with 0 greater than or equal to 4. Well, is 0 greater than or equal to 4? The answer is no. Okay, this is false. Okay, so because 0, 0 gives me a false statement, that means I need to shade the other side of the line that doesn't have 0, 0. So I would shade this area over here on my graph. That is the side that would be shaded. If our statement, if 0, 0 would have given us a true statement, we would have shaded the side of the line that contained 0, 0. All right, the next one here, this is number 3 on your worksheet. Okay, so for this one, we've got y greater than, and remember that negative in front of the x can be negative 1x. Okay, so remember the negative 1 is your m, the negative 5 is your b. So I'm going to go to negative 5 on the y-axis and make my point. My slope is negative 1, which means I have to go down 1, right 1. Okay, I have the 2 points there. Remember, you can also go up one, left one, if you'd like to make some more points. Okay, so I'll just put a couple more on there. All right, now this is a greater than symbol. Okay, there is no line underneath it, so that means I'm going to have a dashed line when I graph this because it is not included. So I'll go ahead and put my line in here. And again, that has to be a dashed line. Again, we should have arrows on the end because this does continue. Okay, so now, again, I need to know which side of this line I should shade. So, again, 0, 0 is a nice, easy point to pick because zeros are easy numbers to work with. So right now my equation is y is greater than negative x minus 5. So I'm going to put a 0 in for y. I'm going to put a 0 in for x. Okay, so this ends up being 0 greater than negative 5. Okay, now that is true. So that means I'm going to shade the side of the line that has 0, 0. So that means we would shade this whole area. Would be shaded in. Okay, and the reason we shade that area is because any point that we would pick in the shaded area would give us a true statement. Okay, so if I were to pick, let's say we'll pick the point 2, 0 right here. So x is 2, y is 0. So if I put that in there, so I'd have 0 for y, 2 for x, okay, minus 5, I'd get 0 greater than negative 7. That's a true statement. Okay, however, if I were to pick a point on the other side of the line, so let's pick negative 3, negative 4 here. So right here, if I had negative 3, negative 4, and I put that into our inequality, we'd have negative 4 greater than a negative 3 minus 5. So that's going to turn to a positive 3. Which is going to give us negative 4 greater than negative 2. Well, negative 4 is not greater than negative 2. That gives us a false statement, and that is why we do not shade that side of the line. Those would not give us true statements. Okay? Same with the dashed line. The reason we use the dashed line is because any points on the line are not going to make it true. Okay? When we use the solid line, those points on a solid line would make it true. All right, the last one we're going to go over here is number 9 on your worksheet. First thing you're going to notice here is that this one is not in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, it's not in linear form. So we are going to change that so that we can graph it. So I'm going to have to subtract the 3x. I'm going to get negative 2y less than, and I'm going to write this as negative 3x plus 10. Now I have to divide by negative 2. Now here's something that a lot of people will forget to do. When you divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, when you multiply or divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, you have to remember to change the direction of the sign. So instead of a less than symbol, we have to change it to a greater than symbol. Negative 3 over negative 2 is going to be a positive 3 over 2x, and then 10 over negative 2 is negative 5. So now we can go ahead and graph this. Our y-intercept is negative 5. Our slope is 3 over 2, so I have to go up 3 and over 2. I have my points. We're going to make our line here. Now remember, because this one is just a greater than symbol, it's not a greater than or equal to. We have to make sure that our line is a dashed line. So now we have our dashed line there. Okay, and then we have to decide which side of the line to shade. So again, 0, 0 is a nice point to pick. So I'm going to put a 0 in for y. We're going to put a 0 in for x. And see what happens here. So 3/2 times 0 is 0. So we have 0 greater than negative 5. Which is true. So that means we have to shade the side of the line that has 0, 0. So you would shade this whole side. Okay, so that means any point in that shaded area would make that inequality true. All right, good luck with the rest of your worksheet.